what this presentation will do is go through a few of the key initiatives we have on the cards at the moment, what we think of the federal budget, where we're going with our brand, and also some new initiatives we've just introduced. So bear with me. So I'll try and sail through this as quickly as I can, because there are far better speakers, and perhaps I was going to say more interesting, but I'd say the brand story that we have is very interesting, but certainly in terms of the technical content, I'm sure you'll want to get to that, and we're very fortunate to have speakers such as Dr. Michael Shaper and of course the Tax Commissioner Michael Lascenzo with us as well. And Michael Lascenzo mentioned last night that he's very happy to truncate part of his presentation, which is, yes, it's a very good presentation on the governance piece of the ATO, but what he's actually suggested he will do is try and present that in a more concise format and then allow some time for Q&A, which I think, as a practitioner, I think is a wonderful opportunity to quiz the Tax Commissioner around anything. I'd suggest that you don't approach with a client brief, but certainly any general issues or policy issues, Michael's indicated he's more than happy to take questions from the floor, and he wants to use that as an opportunity to engage, which I think would be a fantastic thing to be able to go back to your practices particularly and say that you quiz the Tax Commissioner. By the way, here's the bill. Okay, so the presentation I'll go through is giving you some highlights of our federal budget, or the federal budget, what our budget submission was, the future of financial advice and some of the developments in that regard, which probably is the hottest topic at the moment for the accounting profession. Some theories we have around practice diversification, what our concept is to do with My Public Accountant. Now, many of you may have heard the presentation or seen the presentation about My Public Accountant, but I'll go through some of the key elements of that. And talk about our brand success as well that we've had in the last 12 months. It seems much longer than 12 months, but it has only been 12 months in the life of the IPA. And then some key points for us to consider about developing pride in the IPA. So the federal budget, I did a straw poll, as I have done around the Congresses in the last week or so, with the statutory officers and perhaps some Treasury officials excluded. Could I ask for a show of hands of who thought it was a good budget? Who thought it was a bad budget? That was a fairly consistent response. Who thought it was indifferent or was not prepared to do it because we've got some government officials here? Thanks, Michael. Look, I'll come to what our position was in the budget shortly, but of course the key elements, you will have seen all of these. A forecast return to surplus of $1.5 billion, which, as we know, in the context of the federal budget, is basically a balanced budget. And we've heard the Treasurer talking about the benefits of returning to surplus. Reduction of the company tax rate, 29%, was cancelled, and that initiative really is being used to fund some initiatives contained in this budget. Small business, $6,500 asset write-off, the $5,000 write-off provision for vehicles, and the $1 million loss carryback provision. Again, contained in this budget, but in our view, not an extensive small business benefit, and I'll come to that shortly. Superannuation of changes, of course, to the concession caps and to the tax doubling to $300,000, doubling to 30% for $300,000 income earners and above. That's really only affects Dennis Lang. Is he here? It's a cheap shot. No, he's not. That's even better. So what were our budget position? We had three angles on budget night, and a few press clippings we had following the budget. We actually thought this wasn't a good budget. We actually thought it wasn't a good budget for small business, that it actually missed an opportunity to deliver some systemic reform, certainly in terms of taxation reform to small business. We were concerned that the changes to superannuation actually removed the incentives in many ways in terms of long-term savings. We thought the benefits to small business being, the 29% tax rate being removed was a real, to be honest, a kick in the pants of small business. And in a time when time is tough, I mean, your clients will, I'm sure, will be telling you that it's not easy at the moment in small business. What's perhaps even harder is actually coming up with easy fixes. It's not an easy fix when you're dealing with a very disaggregated sector. But our concern was around achieving some cash flow benefit for small business. Now, the problem with the loss carryback provisions, as we know, is that in order to benefit from them, there's a few tests and a few little hoops you got to jump through. So in theory, you sit there and say, well, there's a good opportunity of getting a nice cheque from the Commissioner, $300,000 refund, potentially. But in actual fact, that only benefits those organisations, those small businesses that are companies. And we know that perhaps less than a third of Australia's small businesses are actually operating under that structure. So immediately there's 2/3 of Australia's small businesses that will receive no benefit from the loss carryback provisions. And then when you factor in the changes to the company tax rate and the fact that the reduction in company tax rate has gone, well then you can see very quickly that it isn't a very good picture in terms of the budget. So a few small wins, and a few small wins for small business, certainly in the budget, and things like the funding for a small business commissioner we think is a good move, but our reservation remains that we don't think there is enough detail yet to put our hand on our heart and say that this is the right direction. We'd like to see a small business commissioner with teeth. We'd like to see a small business commissioner with the sufficient resources to actually achieve change. And when you consider the task of a small business commissioner that actually has to float across every sector, every government department, and try and encourage regulatory reform and removal of regulatory burden, you need a small business commissioner with teeth and the competence to actually do it. So in our view, there are only really a few people that could probably do that, and we are very keen to see that appointment being made, but more importantly, the scope of powers being extensive, sufficient to actually implement change rather than a token. And I'm not suggesting that's what the government's doing. I mean, we're yet to see the detail, but I think the last thing small business could do with right now is a person who's claiming to be their advocate with actually no power. So that's our concern around the budget from a small business perspective. We thought there was very little in it. There's actually provision in the budget for accountants to be doing more for the government and to be doing more of the regulatory work of the government on its behalf. So again, concern about that. Our pre-budget submission is available on our website for those who are after more detail. Look, the future of financial advice is, as I said, the hottest topic at the moment, without doubt. And this speaks specifically to the extent of advice that you're able to provide clients when it comes to financial services. We've been advocating for over 2.5 years since the government introduced the FIPA concepts that accountants have the skill and competence required to satisfy the needs to provide general advice to the market. We believe that very strongly, that accountants have got more than enough skill and more than enough competence in the main. Now, that's not to say there aren't those who operate beyond the law, but we believe that our members, when you consider a member coming into the IPA is required to have an accounting qualification to get in the front door, and that's either an advanced diploma in accounting or a bachelor's degree, and then we require a member to undergo 3 years mentored experience as well as complete our master's degree before receiving a practising certificate. So we believe the benchmark and the bar is set quite high, certainly in terms of our members, and we're very strongly advocated for our members that you be included in the financial services regime. I believe it is a strange concept that members with that level of qualification and experience be excluded from offering general advice. When it comes to product-related advice, of course, there's no question at all that people would need to apply and be obliged to comply with the licence obligations that exist. But so we've been advocating very strongly in relation to that and developing a comprehensive basket of advice. Now, the FOFA changes in terms of the accountants actually really relate to the accountant's exemption. I mean, that's really the critical issue. That's the carve-out that members relied upon to provide general structural advice in relation to self-managed super funds. That was introduced as part of the FSRA reforms, and in theory sounds right, but in practice we know it doesn't work, because in order to provide advice on the structure of self-managed super funds, you do have to evaluate options. Now, to evaluate options, you need to be licensed. So it's a catch-22 that really never worked. And I think the concern is that with that provision and the catch-22, the risk is that members could be operating outside of the law without even knowing about it. So we believe that the reform in terms of the advice around self-managed super funds was warranted, but the insistence all along is that it be a level playing field. It's one thing to have the financial planning fraternity or the industry coming under the tax regime. That makes sense, provided, of course, they meet the necessary standards set by the TPB. So that's the right policy outcome. We've been advocating that in order for it to be the right policy outcome and create a level playing field, there needs to be a provision for accountants to provide advice in broader financial services. So as late as yesterday, Vicky Stilianu, our Executive General Manager of Representation Innovation, and I went to Canberra yesterday morning for a meeting with Minister Shorten to, with the other two accounting bodies, to actually put our case. We've advocated very strongly that there should be a comprehensive basket of advice that members should be able to provide. We'd love to be able to divulge the contents of that, or the details of that discussion, but suffice to say, watch our website in coming days, because there should be an announcement on that. So we're confident of a good outcome in relation to the accountant's exemption FOFA issue. So I'm happy to take some questions later on that, but it was a good discussion. But the process that we've taken has been slightly different. As a body, we believe that there are two aspects to our FOFA agenda. One is to progress a very extensive and detailed policy discussion with the government, which we've done over 2.5 years. So, you know, some will be critical of the length in the process, but it is what it is. So it's taken 2.5 years, and we've had a joint accounting body's focus in relation to that policy. Now, that was up until about December last year, which happened to coincide with the launch of our financial services platform. So we launched our FSP, and I should actually at this point acknowledge MLC and AMP for their support of this Congress as sponsors of the event, and they are the partners that we actually engage with, because we went to the market and we assembled a group of members and we said, what is it that you need from the IPA, and what is it that you need from a financial services licensing solution? So we actually got the wish list of things that members needed, and we then went to the market and we said, to the range of providers who can provide these things and with the most comprehensive platform. And we settled on the two networks of AXA AMP and MLC. And within that platform there's about 30 or more licensing solutions. And the benefit really is that members can provide and be brought into the licensing regime, comply with the dealer network arrangements, and be able to provide comprehensive advice. So, yeah, very much we wanted to take the hassle out of finding a good solution for you. So that's what we've done. So that's the arrangement in place. It's not to say it's the only arrangement, of course. We couldn't do that, but we believe it's a compelling case to look at diversifying your practice, which neatly segues, I suppose, into what the market is doing. And in terms of FOFA, so we've progressed our policy argument, but the second prong of our approach has been very much that notion of finding a practical solution for members. Because the market's moving. You will all know, as clients come in the door of your practice, they're wanting to get a full range of services. And dare I say it, they're probably wanting a full range of services and pay less for it. That's just a fact of life. They want to come in the door and they want to get not just their taxation services and advisory services. They want to come in and get wealth management services as well. They don't necessarily want to have to shop around, or they don't want to have to go down the street or across the road to get the wealth management advice as well. So the market is already shifting in terms of the needs of clients. So that's resulting in this notion of savvier clients wanting more. So our plea to members who aren't already considering this is to critically look at the issue of practice diversification. The increased efficiency of the broader taxation system, and the more efficiency that's built in, which is a good thing, I mean, it is a good policy thing for greater efficiency in the system, will mean that compliance-based activity will decrease over time. So it might not happen tomorrow, but in the course of the next few years, we believe that the compliance-based activity and those practices relying primarily on compliance-based income will need to diversify to stay in the game. So our encouragement to members is consider these issues now rather than when it's too late. So start diversifying, look at the options around, and obviously a very good way of diversifying is through financial services. So that's our plea to members. So just again, in terms of FOFA, a very strong policy discussion in terms of the joint accounting bodies and FOFA, and then providing a practical solution for members with the licensing. Now, that's been a different view to the other bodies involved in the discussion. We were accused of trying to get the first mover advantage, and of course we had to say, well, really? So, of course, that's what we're trying to do, and to position our members in the best possible way. But that's just a fact of life. So our plea is to be considering practice diversification. 69% of accountants are still basing their practice, the practice on compliance-based activity. Now that was some survey data that we gathered with Business Fitness last year in a report that was titled The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. So 69% of members still focusing on compliance-based activity. We believe that has to change. So through this mechanism, we think there's a forum to do it. This brings us to the concept of My Public Accountant, and this is the new icon, if you like, the icon that we're actually introducing as the way in which we will support our members in practice. So people will have their own views of the creative and their own views of the icon and logo. One thing that the rebrand has taught us is that you're never going to please everyone when it comes to designing logos and icons. This is not a new logo of the IPA, it's literally a new icon for us to have for members in practice. So where we once referred to our PPC holders, as probably many people in this room, we'll now refer to our My Public Accountant network. And the intention is to create a franchise model without the franchise fee. So in doing so, we're actually promoting the Institute to the broader public and reinforcing the concept of what a public accountant is. So along the lines of sort of the My Chemist concept, our hope is that over time, we'll, as people walk down their local strip shopping centres or they through blocks of local offices, they'll see more and more of these icons and logos appearing, and to drive that sense of demand for a public accountant. Now, people will say, gee, it looks like a graphic designer's just scribbled a line on a bit of paper. Well, that's precisely what the graphic designer did. But it's really designed to represent in some way an interwoven relationship between ourselves, our members and their clients. So, and realising that at every step in the process there's got to be a value add. So that's reshaped the way in which we offer services. So I'll come to the components of the platform. And you know, it is about changing the way we serve our members and looking at the various models of support. When you renew your fees this year, and of course it just so happens that it's currently renewal season now, but when you renew this year, from the 1st of July you'll receive this pack. And this is the concept behind this is to come up with a practice in a box, really, and that's as simple as it gets. But in there, there'll be some instructions as to what to do with the box. But importantly, there is contained in the kit is a USB key. So it comes out a little square, it looks like a coaster, but it's a USB key. So you take it out, plug it in the computer, and it auto-runs to the My page, which is a portal access system. So we've developed 15 access portals, and that was designed, again, through a panel of members who said, look, we want to be able to access the Institute's services, but when you look at the website now, there are a lot of services listed, but how can we make them more easily accessible? So we've done it along the lines of a portal basis. So there is support ranging from professional assistance in terms of your technical assistance, the online practice reviews, which again is a first for any of the accounting bodies to have an online practice review process, right through to marketing support for your practice. So it includes practice management software, white label brochures for you to use in your own networks, a range of collateral and templates for you to use for posters to take to, say, a Snap printer and say, you know, we don't have any arrangement with Snap, by the way, but to go to a local printer and say, can you print these off for us? We need a banner this size or an A2, an A. So whatever the need of your practice, you can actually tailor the marketing support to your practice. So it has a whole range of services, and built into that is a financial services platform, as well as our My Public Accountant manual. So our contention is that everything you need to run an efficient practice is contained now in this USB key that actually takes you to your own My Page website, and that will actually be now the main way of us interfacing with members in practice. So with 3,500 practices, we believe that it's Australia's largest uniquely branded accounting practice network. Now that's a phenomenal opportunity for us to promote the brand importantly to clients. When you consider the reach of our members across the practice network is into the millions, if we reinforce the brand message, reinforce the notion of a public accountant within that network, it just stands to reason that the brand promotion of the Institute will just continue to increase. So we can do what we can from a TV and macro point of view with a national campaign, but this very much is about addressing the needs of clients at client level. So it's, again, the first for any of the accounting bodies to develop such a concept in Australia, and we believe that it will revolutionise the support we provide members. So linked to the My Public Accountant network is My Public Accountant Professional Insurance Solutions. Now, we previously had a referrer arrangement with Marsh and a few others in the past, and the referrer arrangement worked. Members had their PI placed. There was no issue with the placement of PI. But our concern was around, well, a few things. We thought that we could make the system more efficient. And in doing so, we've actually brought it in-house. And we have now, sitting in our head office in Melbourne, is a broker whose sole focus is My Public Accountant Insurance. And he has, through his licence, has sourced the underwriting through CGU. So we actually have representatives of them here at this Congress. And I think importantly, with the insurance solutions, that the intention is to provide PI to members in a very, well, an easily accessible format, but where possible, providing premium reductions. And we've seen almost in every case the PI placed through the My Public Accountant network, there's been a reduction, significant reduction in PI premium. And importantly, there was a member who's, members are very happy to give their testimonials when they get significant savings, of course, and there's a member in Victoria who saved in one policy alone $2,000 of their premium. So that money gets reinvested, as this member said, back in their practice. So there are some significant savings in terms of the model. And as I said, Phil De Rosario is here, and he's based in our office in Melbourne, and is very happy to take any inquiries. There's no harm in getting a quote, but of course you need to get advice that suits the needs of your practice, of course. You'll also get a 25% discount on CPE. There's a card in there for 25% discount on your next CPE. I'm not sure whether that applies to next year's National Congress, but we'll see about that. There's one free session when you book 5 as part of the Executive Certificate program. So we've introduced an Executive Certificate streamed learning concept to the Institute, which is online delivery. We've run 2 very successful streams to date, being Corporate Governance and SME. And we're very fortunate to have some very good speakers and very good content providers in the SME Executive Certificate, including Dr. Shaper as well from the ACCC, who provides us some fantastic, the ability to do some CPE and have that input from from key players in the market, such as key people from the ACCC and other places, is just a phenomenal opportunity, and we believe is a great offer. So you get 1 free session as part of that. Access to the practice management software platform. We make that as part of the offer, but it is not compulsory to migrate to this practice management software, but we're saying to members to consider it. And then, of course, stationery and marketing support that you might need. So overall, the intention is to create greater public awareness. The online PPQA process, which we've taken the compliance burden down from 7 or 8 hours of paper-based forms to about 1 to 1.5 hours of an online review that members can do. Rather than once every 3 or 5 years, members can do it as often as they like to actually benchmark their practices. So it's very hard sometimes to get a grip of how you're performing and how your practice is performing in terms of turnaround and billable hours and so forth. So we believe that the practice management, practice review process will be a significant time and cost saving to members. So, and importantly, add value to your practices. I think I skipped ahead there. So white label templates for your practice. The My Public Accountant manual, so that's the templates and support system we provide practices, a range of services, including financial services, and an IPA reward scheme. So this year we're reintroducing the member card. So I know many members, when we discontinued the member card, thought it was the end of the world, and that's fair enough. So we've listened to that and we've reintroduced the member card, but we've brought it back with a bit of a difference, and that is introducing a reward scheme. So there's no cost involved in the reward scheme generally for members in practice, but the reward scheme will give members access when they produce the card at over 4,500 retail outlets around Australia, and in fact the region as well. You'll get some significant retail discounts. So it's basically just a way of us recognising loyalty for the Institute. Again, no charge for that. So we'll provide some tips and tricks as to how members can promote their practices in their own networks as well. So the financial services platform partnership, as part of this presentation, I'm very pleased to be able to officially launch the online referral service. Now, part of the platform was to actually have a range of licensing solutions. But for those members who weren't prepared to necessarily take the leap into, it's not a big leap, but take the leap into offering authorised rep or licensed advice, we've actually now, in an arrangement with AMP and MLC, developed a referral service. Now, so we're very pleased to be able to launch that today, and it's certainly part of the membership, and that's certainly at no charge. That's in addition to the My Public Accountant network, and that actually we believe matches the so our members to suitable financial planners. So basically, a pool of financial planners that you might be wanting to engage with. And there's a filtering process applied there, and the important thing here is that it is online and efficient. So it's all done online. You can source appropriate planners as part of that. So again, at no additional charge, it's as part of the service offering to provide that one-stop shop to your clients. Now, in terms of the insurance, part of the offer is 14 months cover at the price of 12. Again, you'll need to speak to Phil. He's the one with the licence, not me, but the key elements of the offer are 14 months cover for the price of 12, a base level premium of $1 million in terms of $1 million cover for PI, personalised service, of course, from Phil and the team in Melbourne in our office. And in terms of the premiums, they are very competitive. And what we're offering as an incentive to members to consider this solution is a discount on membership. So, and that discount ranges from 8 to 10% depending on your membership level, but can be some significant savings. So your MIPA fee, for example, if you migrate to the insurance arrangement, will be a flat $900, and for FIPA is a flat $1,000. So that's almost savings of $200 just on your membership fee. So that would be by way of a rebate back to you once you join the service. So I wanted to briefly talk on brand success to allow a bit of time, well, might not be a lot of time for questions if there are any. But it has been a phenomenal period for the IPA, and looking back at the last 12 months, we've achieved over now a 43% increase in our admission rate. So that's members coming in the door. And so a critical metric for us was to look at increasing our headcount and increasing the number of members coming in and lowering the average age. Our average age is a battle, but it was hitting mid-50s. Now, some members say, well, that's all right, that's pretty good. But I'm sure you can appreciate that when you can compare with other organisations that have average ages of mid-30s, that there's a big gap there. And we needed to reverse that because the average age of member we were ageing beyond the natural rate of aging, if that makes sense. So we're attracting more older people to the Institute compared to our competitors. So we needed to attract more younger people. The only real way of changing that, we haven't found the tonic yet that will reverse the ageing process. So more people coming in. So the average age has now come back to 48. And it's going down. So that's in a fairly short amount of time. When you consider a membership of 22,000, to have that sort of impact is really pleasing. So the average age of our intake now is around mid-30. So it's a good sign for us. 46% increase in student members. We now have over 8,000 students on our books, which again is a phenomenal result as part of the rebrand. 6.5% increase in the number of practitioners. That's just shy of the target we set, but it's trending in the right direction. Some important metrics around our the outreach is 107% increase in new visitors to the website, which is again is a very strong result. Now it's over 142% increase in media coverage in 2011 compared to the previous year, and that's just picked up again in terms of the budget activity as well. 91 or over pushing 100% increase in online presence through social media channels, and we're very fortunate in head office to have one of Australia's only PhDs in online communities. Amy Gibbs looking after our social media for us. She just recently had her PhD conferred, which is a great achievement for her, but even better for us in a way because she's completely up to speed with the strategies around social media. What's not here is the 87% increase in the employment ad mentions. Now, when you speak to students, they're critically focused on employment ads, which is fair enough. Students want a job, they want the quickest pathway to employment. But what we've seen, I actually did a search the day before our rebrand last year. The number of job ad mentions of the then NIA on Seek was around 7. I did a search the other day, and it obviously goes up and down depending on the cycle. and there were over 167 mentions of the IPA with CA-CPA designation. So that's more than, obviously, an 87% increase. But as an average, there's been a very strong response. Now, we're not there yet. Of course we're not there yet, but we're certainly going in the right direction. So finally, I wanted to leave you some thoughts around pride in the Institute. It's very easy, I think, for members to think, well, we're the smallest of the three bodies in Australia, and some members indeed having a bit of a chip on the shoulder. Now, I don't want to overplay that, but I think it is easy to have that thought. But to put it in context, in the global accounting profession, we're within the IFAC networks. That's the International Federation. That's the, if you like, the United Nations of the profession. There are 187 members and affiliates of IFAC. Now, of those, we're in the top 25 in terms of size of membership and turnover. So it gives you some idea that, yes, we have quite a few members per capita in Australia across the three bodies, but globally speaking, it is a sizable contribution and a sizable impact. And it's noticed certainly in networks like IFAC. So top 25 in the world. We're the only accounting body in Australia to require an accounting qualification to come in. Now, people say, oh, that can't be the case. Well, it is the case. You cannot join the IPA without an advanced diploma in accounting or a bachelor's degree in accounting. We don't offer alternate pathways for members of any discipline. We don't offer bridging programs. We don't offer... Yeah, our board took a very strong view that it is in the best interest of the profession to have members coming in to the Institute that actually have an accounting background, believe it or not. It sounds a bit strange, but to actually have members coming in with an accounting academic background. And that then coupled with the fact that we're the only accounting body to offer a master's degree in commerce, provided by one of Australia's universities, the University of New England. It's the only accounting body in Australia, indeed one of the only bodies in the world to offer a higher degree as part of its professional program. When I say higher degree, as in a master's degree. That qualification results in suitability for registration with the Tax Practitioners Board. That's a little bit of an interesting place at the moment in terms of a few elements of a few units across the profession, but TPB registration, registered company audit qualification, and now RG 146 in terms of the ASIC's requirements, as they're set at the moment, in terms of financial planner. So you walk away with our program with a Masters of Commerce, your professional membership, tax agent registration, registered company audit, and financial planning. Is there anything else you'd like? I mean, the issue is that it is a comprehensive offer that we believe more people need to know about. So that's our challenge. Our intention is to generate a sense of ownership of the small and medium practice segment and the SME sector. Our members, as in you, are the ones who are best placed providing that advice to Australia's small and medium enterprises. And for some time there was a reluctance to acknowledge that. There's a reluctance to say we're the body representing small business or small and medium enterprise, or the advisors of small business. My approach to that is that's what we do well, and I think we're the best place in Australia to actually deliver that service, and we're delivering it as we go. So over 22,000 members and growing, offices in Beijing, Kuala Lumpur, a presence through service centres in over 11 provinces in China as well, growing network of affiliations through India, South Africa and the UK. This is the way the profession is moving. Now, some people will say, how is it relevant to me? How is IFRS relevant to me? Well, the reality is, if you're engaged in applying accounting standards, and I dare say most of us are, then you've got an interest in IFRS. So we see it as critically important that we provide members with a link to the global profession. But there are many good things about the IPA, and our intention is to roll on with our brand promotion campaign. We'll be doing that throughout the course of this coming financial year. So there'll be more TV advertisements, more radio advertisements, more online and print media to promote the brand. So we've got many good stories to tell. And what we're saying to members is, you have more than enough reason to be proud of your institute. 1923 was when we were formed. We've got a long and proud history of providing great service to the Australian profession. From our point of view, it's time that we all collectively recognise the stake that we have, set aside any concern we have about some other focus of competitors, and actually focus on what it is that we do well. We're recognised for doing it well, and we should continue to do it, because that's the way we'll drive segmentation, that's the way we drive future growth of the Institute, and we're very proud of doing that. So look, thanks very much for your support of the Congress. Thanks very much for everything you do and have supported the Institute. Last year, we've achieved over 95% of members voting in favour of the change to the IPA. Was a thumping endorsement of the plans of the board. And I'm very fortunate that we have a strong and supportive board, and obviously led by Christine, who has had to chair the board through what has been, Christine's in her final year as president, and it would be inappropriate for me not to at least acknowledge and there'll be more said about this later, of course, but the immense contribution that Christine has made to reshaping the Institute. Management can have all the grand plans in the world, but the way we govern things from a corporate point of view in Australia is they're put to a board of representatives of members, and that's where the real business is done. And to have Christine's support and the board's support and leadership during this process of change is really very encouraging. So we're very well placed with a strong board, a very committed management to the future of the organisation, but more importantly, the support of wonderful members. So look, thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best for the conference. Thanks.